Hey everybody, Jeff Oriyama here. I have a great guest today. He's a prominent open source maintainer, a GraphQL expert, and a pillar in the TypeScript community. In this clip, we discuss open source in the age of AI. Without further ado, let's get started. We have with us today Lenz Weber-Tronic. Lenz, why don't you give us a quick intro?
Yeah, hi. I'm Lenz, nickname Franius. You've probably seen me on GitHub or like Blue Sky or something as Fry. I'm a maintainer of Apollo client. I work at Apollo for 3 years now. And I'm also maintaining a bunch of other open source stuff, not so actively currently on Redux Toolkit, but all over the place, smaller things, contributing to things, part of the open source ecosystem.
Thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate you sharing your time and your wisdom with us. Got a few questions for you, Lenz. Would love to hear your takes on these. You've been working a lot in the open source realm, obviously with Apollo, but also with Redux Toolkit and other projects. Can you recall an issue or pull request that you've seen recently from a community member that is a non-maintainer that was like really good, and what made it good?
We do have one. You shared this question beforehand, and I had to think about it a little bit because those comment, you're happy about them in the moment, but maybe you forget again. But we do have one issue or discussion, if you want to call it, that's come up that's super interesting and that's been spanning over a very long time. It apparently started with a person approaching my colleague Cheryl at a GraphQL Summit, and they started discussing about merging of GraphQL responses that are not normalized, which is a difficult topic. And what that person did, and what I found really fascinating, is they created essentially two full implementations of an idea they had, and then didn't directly throw it in as a pull request, but they started talking to us. They linked us to their branch and they were going through their design ideas. I'm not sure if actually anything will come out of that, because we've come to the point in the discussion where we're like 110 comments deep and we're like, maybe the current behavior is the best we can have without making any further assumptions about the server. And in most cases, it's actually the correct way to do things. But it's just been such an open discussion about everything involved. And that's what I love. You can start something like that in an issue. You obviously can do a pull request, but if you do something that big, you need to give the impression that it's not expected to be merged, but more a talk piece. In this case, it happens through the GraphQL Discord mostly, with links to a few different implementations on the side, discussion how to do this, how to do that. What I just really liked about the whole thing is that we're all open to trying to find the problem, to look at it from different directions, and that there's no immediate pressure to merge something. And that's something that happens a lot in other pull requests. Someone does a
Yeah.
pull request and expects this to be the solution for everybody else too. And oftentimes doesn't really work, because we always have to make that decision not for the individual use case, but also that decision like, if this feature stays in and someone else sees it and they might have a different situation, is it actually bad for them? Would it draw them in to use it because it sounds like the right solution and lead them to a worse design overall and stuff like that? And that can be very hard. And it's also very hard to tell a person in the end, hey, we appreciate the PR, but this isn't going to fly for the rest of the ecosystem. So I
It could
just
be
really,
transactional, right? It can be very transactional a lot of times.
yes.
Somebody opens a pull request or an issue and it's here's the thing, here's what I want. And it's just a binary like yes, no. And I don't know, reality is always a little more complicated.
Yeah, and here really I appreciated this idea of let's look at solutions. Let's look at the problem from different points. Let's find out what you as the maintainers have been thinking about this over the last few years. Because obviously this is a tricky thing. It is a problem for many people, depending on their graph design, depending on how they write their queries, on how things should be merged if they're non-normalized. But it's also nothing that can be solved in one very specific way.
Thanks for sharing that. How are you dealing with the influx of AI generated code in your open source work? I know it's a problem that a lot of folks are dealing with. And I'm curious what your perspective is and how you handle it.
I really appreciate it when people come forward and they open an AI-assisted PR, but they acknowledge that it's AI-assisted and that might not be something that they spend hours researching. Because you get that spectrum where on the one hand, someone had an actual problem, tried to solve that, used some AI to get some help, maybe found a solution, or maybe, again, found a fix that only works for them but wouldn't work in other cases. And on the other end of that spectrum, you got essentially hallucinated problems with hallucinated solutions.
Oh no.
And that's one thing if it happens in your own repo, and then hopefully a human looks at it and says, oh no, that's not actually a problem, or we definitely shouldn't solve it like that, or that analysis is wrong. But of course, like if someone just throws out OpenClaw or something and has it search in the internet for potential problems, you will find internal CLIs and internal packages. You will find methods that, if they are called a very specific way, would cause problems, but again, are internal and are only called in a very different way. We've had a PR recently that like came in with prototype pollution and a big security vulnerability. And then I sat down and, okay, I have a solution now, but they didn't ship a test that proved that it would actually happen. And that's the first thing. Like, you prove it happens, you write the test that shows it happens, and then you fix the problem so the test goes green. But they skipped the first step, they skipped that, and it sounded still like a really serious problem, and it also looked plausible. Then I sat down, and for 2 or 3 hours, I couldn't reproduce it. So that PR like was pure hallucination. Like it's still
what a
nice.
waste of time.
We can still go there. We can still like maybe draw out a little bit of that solution to just be more hardened in the future if this method is used in different ways. And we can maybe make something out of that. But like the urgency, if someone like runs into your room and yells at you that you have a serious bug that will turn into a CVE and everything, and you drop everything, and you actually had like important things to do, and you spend hours on that, and then it turns out, no, it can't even reproduce it. Like,
that's so frustrating.
It hurts. It's really annoying. And it happens more often now because people don't review. They just tell an AI to find problems in open PRs because they maybe want to pad their own CV with PRs against big repositories or something. But it's not really helpful for anyone going about it that way. You still need to verify it. And the frustrating point about these people is that in the comments, oftentimes we're not discussing with the person that owns the GitHub account, but we're essentially discussing with Claude.
Oh no.
And the moment, even if it's a really good PR, the moment I have a question, I get an answer that's so out of the can, that's definitely not written by a human.
Yeah. M dashes, you're absolutely right. Stuff like that.
You're absolutely right, yes. Like the over-the-top apologies and stuff like that. It takes the fun out of the interaction that should happen. And it might also pull the whole PR on the back burner because time spent goes both ways. Sure. And I don't want to discuss with 70 cents of tokens. I want to discuss with the person.
I don't want to discuss with 70 cents of tokens. I want to discuss with a person. I think that could go on a poster.
Make it a market.
Yeah, it's interesting because you said putting it on the back burner and everything. I think that's what I see some maintainers doing is it's less about responding to the account because like you said, the lights might be on, but nobody might be home there. And it's more about disengaging and just letting it sit for a bit. You mean
it also has a different sense of urgency. If you know there's a human sitting on the other hand, and maybe they have a big project and they want to use this and they have a little blocker, then I'll happily spend time to help them along with that. If on the other end, it's an account that has 50 PRs open that are completely disconnected, and the feeling that I get is that an AI farming credits or farming PRs, there's no sense of urgency for me to respond to that unless they really uncovered something big. And then I still have to sit down and think, is this a hallucination or is it real?
Yeah. Share something that is on your desk right now. Anything or within arm's reach.
It is a big mess, as always.
It's okay. We can't see it.
The thing that lies around here that is probably the most interesting and nerdy is die Datenschleuder. I'm not sure if
Okay.
it's in focus here.
It's not, but let's get closer.
It's uh
Wait,
okay.
put it, maybe that, maybe.
Oh yeah,
There we
here.
go. Perfect.
It's the magazine of the German Chaos Computer Club. They send that out once or twice a year to members. And it's just a community magazine from hackers for hackers, essentially, where hacker in this case means everything from open source maintainer to a person that actually goes around and friendly or unfriendly breaks things. One thing that they have in here is a very old political manifest that they have.
Okay. All right. There you go.
See the need to print it again. It's the Unvereinbarkeitserklärung des CCC, which essentially means, and they really put it very openly, that we are like all cosmic beings. The main idea is that racism has no place in tech, and any other form of discrimination neither. That's just something I landed in my inbox a few weeks ago, and I've yet to read it. It's just lying on my desk, and worst case, it's going to be replaced by the next one they sent before I get to it. But it's probably the most interesting thing on my desk right now.
Well, thank you, Lenz. This is really great. Thank you for sharing all your insights. Really appreciate it. Looking forward to all the things that are coming and grateful for all the work that you've put into the open source community.
Yeah, thank you for having me.